Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined by top trainer Shane McGuigan. Shane, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks Danny, mate. Thanks for coming down.
Pleasure. I was saying to Daniel earlier, it's nice to not have to travel far for work for once. I'm just down the road. So, but yeah, lovely facilities here as well. No better place to start than with the new addition to the gym, Daniel Dubois. How did that all come about?
Well, it was, like we haven't had that long. It's only going to be about 3.5 weeks of training. Sorry, 3.5 weeks we're going to be together before this fight. But I was doing a bit of work with Caroline in January, and Dan he did a few sessions and that, and I think with the travel coming down, it was a long way for him to travel down and back, and I think they decided that there was a better fit to go with Mark Tibbs and that, and obviously that didn't end up sort of coming to fruition. But he just Dave gave me a shout, and I said, look, he said, are you still interested in doing some work with Daniel? I said, yeah, 100%. He said, but he's boxing on June the 5th. I said, all right, well, let me have a think about it, and did a few sessions. I said, yeah, let's get on with it. I'm not one to sort of kill the clock and try and I want to get on, get my work done, and make an impact on Daniel. And I think you're not going to see a completely reinvented fighter on June the 5th, but I think tweaking him a little bit, trying to make him a little bit more sort of speed his legs up, get a little bit of head movement, make sure he's going the right ways, and just getting him fundamentally set up right. And I think 6-10 months, a year in, I think you're really going to see a huge improvement in him. But it's not like I'm working with a guy that can't fight.
No.
You know what I mean? So I just think I think we're going to really get a lot out of him, because he's really hasn't tapped into what he's capable of.
He seems to be, just from the brief glimpses we got, really coachable as well. He seems to listen, take things in very quickly.
Definitely, yeah. But he has been boxing a long time, and he is ingrained in a certain pattern. But he understands boxing, and he's sharp. He doesn't talk a lot, but he's switched on. So, and he definitely digests the information. So, that's why I've had approaches throughout the years through lots of people, and a lot of the time I think, can I actually implement what I want into this person? But I know with Daniel, from that few sessions in January, I knew that I could. So when Dave gave me his dad called me on Thursday a couple of weeks ago and said, are you interested? I said, yeah, I genuinely am, because this isn't a 1 or 2 fight project for me. This is a 5-year project. I really believe that. I think not even that, but in 18 months' time, he should be really, really firing and conditioned and feet livened up, and I think you're going to gradually see a big improvement over the next 18 months.
And talking of his dad, he's obviously heavily involved in Daniel's career. When Mark Tibbs did an interview recently, I think it was with Boxing Social, he said he hinted very strongly that there was an issue between training someone whose father was so involved with them. I think he said something like, I've worked with fighters like that before. He didn't seem very happy about it. Have you had any sort of issues in that regard? I mean, it's early days, but...
No, not at all, because a father being involved is a good thing, in my opinion, because it's going to actually keep the fighter safe and happy. And having a good relationship with your dad is a big factor. And I have a great relationship with my dad. A lot of people have hinted you should step out your dad's shadow and all this sort of stuff, but I know deep down that actually when the cameras are off and everything's off, my dad's always got my best interest and the boxer's best interest at heart, and Daniel's dad has his best interest at heart more than anybody. So I think it's actually a benefit to have him heavily involved, and as long as he trusts me and and we're all on the same page, then I don't see there being a problem. So absolutely no issues with Dave being involved.
And you mentioned your dad there. You don't still feel you're in his shadow in any way, do you?
No, because of people saying, you shouldn't be, only you should, your dad manages fighters and stuff like this, and people trying to, throw my dad's name under, through the mill a little bit. But I know that actually he's always got the fighter's best interests at heart, and that's just the way it is. But people don't know what goes on behind the scenes, and actually having a dad heavily involved like my dad is, and like Dan's dad is, it's a good thing. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, like I have to be looked after, and so does Dan. So it's a good thing. So I can only see it being a benefit.
From a trainer's point of view, is there any sense of relief now there's not a Cyclone operations doing the promotional side anymore, because you can just focus purely on the training?
Not necessarily. I think we did a fantastic job. You know, I think
great.
like I saw your tweet the other day. We
didn't retweet it, did you?
Well, I don't like to seem bunches. Do you know what I mean? Because really, like, it's only going to get some positive and some negatives, and I think sometimes things are just left untouched.
Yeah, I agree.
And you know, definitely, look, I thought we did a great job when we brought on some fighters and we took them through in double quick time with no budget at all. You know, Channel 5 is, in terms of the budget that BT are getting, Sky are getting, DAZN are getting, these guys are getting huge budgets, so you've got the ability to pay everybody incredibly well. So we were getting decent fights made. I mean, you look at the fight that just went on Channel 5 at the weekend, it was terrible. Like, you had Josh Taylor fighting Victor Postel on Channel 5. It was a fantastic operation. Like, we did a great job, and selling out arenas and doing good stuff. So with minimal budgets. So you know, I think we did a great job, but I don't think it's it's a small industry with powerful people involved, and I just don't think you can really compete with those big boys, because there's only a few networks that allow you to be able to compete with them. And obviously, since I think Eddie's going to go with DAZN now. Sky are now a free agent and stuff, but no, we've you know, but I don't think we'll go back to promoting, because it's just time consuming, and sometimes there should have been more of an enjoyment and a praise factor from the fighters, and everything that's come off has just been negative. But you know, all of these fighters are now superstars, so it's weird how that just happened.
And you mentioned Josh Taylor there. As you've said, not only was he the matches made perfectly, or as I said actually, but just kidding. As you said, it matched perfectly, trained obviously very well, and developed by you from the start of his pro career. How does it feel then when you watch him win the undisputed titles? Do you feel a sense of pride, or is it bittersweet?
No, definitely. Look, pride for him. I'm happy for him. I wish things had turned out a little bit better, but I felt like I did a great job with him. From a trainer's perspective, I think Dad done a fantastic job with him from matchmaking and management's perspective, and so did my brothers. So I can sit there and actually be proud of the work that I've done. And you know, there's no need between me and Josh really. Like, we're not going to be friends, but you know, I don't sit there wishing he's going to get beaten, like, because I generally don't. I want the best for him. And a few years ago, not even 18 months ago, I wanted everything for him. Yeah. Now I'm not going to just suddenly not want that for him. Do you know what I mean? It's just because I'm not involved. It doesn't matter. It's just he deserved to be undisputed champion, because I always believed he was the best in the division, and he went out there and did it. So happy for him. Do you know what I mean? I'll have to just get the undisputed crown with Lawrence. So that's just like that. That's something from my side. I'd love to train a fighter from the start, which I did with Josh from his first fight, to become an undisputed. We got to a unified champion, and he's had, you know, he's had like one knockover job with Ben Davison, and he boxed Ramirez for all the belts. So nearly got there, but I'll get there again.
Does it hurt when fighters move on, or are you kind of inured to it now? You've been around boxing for so many years.
I don't mean to be arrogant, but if you're good, you'll always have fighters come. So you can't get too emotionally involved and attached. I got too emotionally involved in Carl, and look how that ended up. Now, I won't ever make that mistake again. Like, I'm godfather of George's child. Like, I'm really good friends with Luke. Like, CBS, all those guys. Like, they're all really, really close friends. But if they if Lawrence chose to move on now, then I'll say, hold my hands up. I did a great job for you. you know, and hopefully they don't, but that's just the way it works. Sometimes it's not even them that's doing it, it's pressure from another person. And I know deep down that it wasn't pressure from Josh Taylor, like it was pressure from somebody else that was forcing Josh Taylor to do that, and also my position not to work with another outfit. So I said, no, look, that's fine, that's just the way it is.
You said about fighters and godfather to George Groves' son, and that seems like that is quite an emotional involvement. You must be very close.
There's a great, but like George is a fighter that's retired, and we're still best mates. Do you know what I mean? We're still really close mates. But what I'm saying is, it's not going to happen with everyone, and I can't expect it to happen with everyone. And I understand that more importantly, this is a business, and with business opportunities, you can't always be best mates. So because they'll take the piss out of you, or you'll take the piss out of them, because that's just the way it is. Because people will always push the boundaries, and if there's a friendship relationship, then people will push the boundaries. So, you know, like, as long as there's contracts and as long as everyone's on the same page and you don't sway from them, then so be it. You know, like Luke and I are super close, and you know, like, we signed an agreement to start with, and we never looked back. And the same with George. So, but sometimes you have to, sometimes you have to make sure you're looked after as well.
No pressure on Lawrence or CBS to give you godfather rights over their firstborns?
No, not. Well, it was George's second child. So.
Oh, okay, so you didn't even get it from George. Fair enough. We talked about Lawrence quite a lot. Great win over Glavotsky to win that world title. He wanted to unify straight away. How likely does that look to happen?
Unlikely, because he actually boxed for the vacant belt. If he had boxed Glowacki and he was a champion, then we would have had a chance to unify. But
you had a grace period for the match.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But unfortunately, we're going to have to deal with Prasovic, and I think we've come to an agreement with him. So I think Eddie's going to announce something shortly. We don't know quite a date, but I think that's going to be the next opponent. And after that, we'll look to probably go the WBC route against Makabu, because you got Igorov boxing Gulamarian for the WBA. So that's going to have to get made. That's going to take a bit of time. That's going to be a hard fight for both of those. Whoever comes through, they're going to probably be pretty beat up. So they're going to need a bit of time to recover. But I think if we get Makabu after this, and then we look for the winner of that, or we just, we see what Bradis is doing. Because I think he's in need of a fight. And he's taken to calling out Jake Paul, which is I don't think that's actually genuine. But I think his intention was to move up to heavyweight, but it's so clogged up there. You've got Usyk that moved up. And he hasn't had his world title shot. He now might, but that took a bit of time. You've got Joe Joyce that's lurking in the, waiting for a world title shot. You've got AJ Fury. Those two are going to. Depends who wins it. If someone wins it convincingly in the first one, there might not be a rematch, but I think there is going to be a rematch. If it's controversial in the first one and then there's a convincing win in the second one, there might be a trilogy. So, just like what's happened with Wilder versus Fury, so that's taking time. And I think Bradis is sitting there thinking, you've got Filip Hrgovic up there as well. Like, there's loads. You've got Dylan White sitting there. Like, it's not going to be suddenly you're going to be fighting for a world title. And there's only real life-changing money when you get into the fight for the world titles. So there's going to be a huge opportunity, I believe, in the next 10 months for Bradis to box Lawrence Okolie for all the belts, or at least 3 of them, and then hopefully we box and he becomes undisputed.
And your other cruiserweight in the gym, Chris Billam-Smith, of course, Commonwealth champion, bidding for the vacant British and the European titles against Tommy McCarthy in Fight Camp. I guess the first thing I need to ask you is what you made of McCarthy's post-fight interview where you were referenced.
Rats running packs or something?
Rats running packs, and what was the other one? Similar, birds of a feather flock together, yeah.
It is what it is. Me and Tommy are mates from back in the day. He might not try and allude to it. He'll try and drum up some heat, but there's never been needle between me and him at all. He's just trying to hype the fight up. So all credit to him. I mean, he's got to try and rev himself up. But
did you fight as amateurs or just spar?
No, yeah. He gave me a standing 8 count and an open spar. So
get it in first.
No, but he'll say he knocked me out or whatever, but it wasn't. He dipped my legs, and I got a stand on 8 count, and then we did another 2 rounds. So we did 4, and Dominic O'Rourke, who's the coach, was refereeing it, and Katie Taylor was in the gym, and there was other people in the gym. So, you know, and Darren Sutherland was in the gym, but he's since passed. And yeah, it just was on a. It was like Irish. Well, we were like youths back then, so it was like a development training camp, and we were over there I was over there for a couple of weeks sparring.
Were you same weight?
No, he was moving at 81. I was at 69 kilos, yeah. So it's not like bragging rights. Do you know what I mean? We boxed then again in the Ulster seniors months later, and I won them at 69, and he won them at 81, which was I was a welterweight and he was a light heavyweight. So there was a big weight discrepancy, but it is what it is. He didn't knock me out, but he'll try and say it. But it's funny. But you know, but going back to that point, there's never been a fallout with me and him. No. We've always been cool. So you know, whether he's trying to take on Frampton's beef or somebody else, then so be it. But he can try and run his mouth. But me and him, really, when all the cameras and all this shit's off, we're fine, we're friendly.
And how does it pan out in the ring when they meet?
It's not an easy fight for CBS because Tommy's skillful. But if you're going to get a shot at British and European title, I think he's the man to beat. You know, he's going to be. He's an easier fight than Richard Rackwell. He's arguably similar fight to Jack Massey, in my opinion. But it's a bit like the heavyweights in the cruiserweights. There's a decent level, but then there's just a huge gulf in class between the top boys at world level. So it's going to be a good fight for CBS, and it's going to be a real measuring stick for him to be able to figure out where he's at and how far away he is from really the world title.
And just before I talk about your other fighters, you mentioned Darren Sutherland there. Were you guys particularly close?
No, he was a bit older than me. So I was friendly with Kenny Egan, so he was the same age after the Olympics. Kenny,
Councillor Kenneth Egan.
Yeah, he used to come and train with me. Used to come over to England after the Olympics. It all went a bit mad for him, so he would escape and come over a good few times. And I remember going to the TKO gym, and I was up sparring Dudley O'Shaughnessy, and I think Kenny sparred Tony Okolie, someone, or maybe Leon something, maybe it's Leon.
Leon Edwards.
Was it Leon Senior? I can't remember.
Leon Senior, yeah.
Something, yeah, it was like a cruiserweight, whatever. He sparred somebody up there, and it was good times. But I remember
missed the TKO.
I remember that. It was a great gym back then, and really sad about Darren, but I didn't really. I met him a few times over there, but never we weren't like friends. We weren't the same sort of age. So he was a bit older than me. But I remember when it happened. When it was a sad day.
Dudley O'Shaughnessy may still be coming back apparently.
Is he?
We was talking about representing not Britain. I can't remember which country it was in the Olympics. I don't know if he's still going for the qualifiers, but yeah, perhaps.
Oh, he's nice. I like Dudley, and I like Brian as well as Dad. Good people, and Dudley could really fight. He was really good. I remember. I think it was I think I sparred him on the Monday before he boxed Glenn Foot or something.
Still the best amateur fight I've ever seen.
It was just like the two of them just knocked lumps out of each other.
Were you there? You're cool.
No. I think it was in the north. It was up north.
No,
it was in.
Oh no, maybe not.
I think it was Ricky Hatton TV did it, and I think it was up north. Yeah, because I would have gone to it if it had been closer, but I thought no, can't be bothered to travel. But yeah, great fight. I think it was at the 67 kilos. I think it was that year, and JJ Metcalf, who I boxed in the novices and beat. I think he won it that year against Tom Baker.
And obviously just recently came up just short to Ted Cheeseman.
Good fight.
Now we've been down memory lane. We'll return to the present. Anthony Fowler, obviously really good win.
Who beat Tom Baker the year later.
Who beat Tom Baker. That was the one I was there for. That was at York Hall. Yeah. He's come on defensively since then. I think it's fair to say Fowler, he was a bit of a swashbuckler against Baker, I remember, although he got the job done. Yeah, great win last time out against Jorge Fortea. What's next on the agenda for him? He's got to be pushing towards at least fringe world level, you would think. And Fortea maybe could be considered that.
Yeah, I mean, once again, for me, I'm like looking after Ant's career now. We've got to map it out so that he wants to get the rematch with Fitzgerald. He wants a Cheeseman fight. He wants to win a British title. But Sergio Garcia is just vacating. He was supposed to box Sharat for the European, for his defence of his European. I think he's now vacating. We've appealed to the EBU to try and get Fowler versus Sharat for a European title. And if none of the domestic lads want to sort of mix it with him, then we might have to go for. There could be potentially a fight against Dennis Hogan, which is a good fight for us, because he's just lost to Tim Tszyu, but he also boxed Jamie Munguia for a world title, and he boxed Charlo as well. So he's a good stepping stone for us, but it's not too far of a stepping stone, so that once we're there, we can't go back to a Ted Cheeseman or a Scott Fitzgerald. So that's going to be in fight camp, and so I think one of those two fights, I think it's probably going to be around July 24th. So the first week that fight camp kicks off, and but his baby's due on the 31st of July. So he's gonna have to make sure the little boy doesn't come early. So
CBD really works.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so Fowler's, as you said, sort of knocking on the door of fringe world level. But we still want to get some form of domestic titles under his belt, because he hasn't actually won a British, a Commonwealth, or a European. So that's the plan. I don't want, once you kick on to those levels, you can't come back. So we're that's the idea.
Luke Campbell obviously still wants to carry on with his career. Gave a good account of himself last time out, but it's the toughest division in boxing. Is he going to stay at lightweight? And if so, what's the route back to a world title shot?
Well, I think Luke's going to be making a decision pretty soon. But what he wants to do, he's actually coming down to the gym tomorrow. So we've had some discussions on the phone, but I think he's probably going to publicise what his next moves are, and I think you'll have a chance to hear it from him.
Good stuff. And what about the gym as a whole? I mean, you're obviously very happy in the new facilities. Any plans to add any more new fighters to your stable? You've just got Dubois.
Yeah. Well, look, Caroline, I think she's going to go to the Olympics. I think Caroline's, she'll want to be training with where her brother's at. There's going to be a lot of Olympians coming through. I know that a few might want to come down here. I've spoke to a few. But yeah, it's just a constantly revolving door, this gym. So as most gyms are, if you speak to any trainer, I think they'll say, look, you get phone calls at the most random times, and if you're a good trainer, you'll always get phone calls, and then it's up to you to make sure you have space for them.
How comfortable are you with kind of an expanding gym, though? Not literally, but having more fighters.
I've always tried to keep it small, but at the same time, if you've got, for instance, Luke boxed in January, he hasn't been back in the gym, he's just been taken over. You've got Lawrence and CBS and Fowler all boxing the same bill, but if someone was boxing a month later and Fowler and CBS box, for instance, and then they're out the gym, it's just one fighter in the gym, and it's pretty lonely doing that. So I like to have 5, 6, 7, 8, do you know what I mean, that sort of number, but there's a difference. It's if they're all championship level fighters, that's really time consuming, and also not even that, it's exhausting for the trainer, but also about trying to fit everybody in and give them adequate time and give them 100% of myself. So the way I had it, at one stage I had Frampton, Groves, Hay, Taylor was a prospect, Conrad Cummings was a prospect, Anthony Kikachi was a prospect, in and around that level, Josh Pritchard, and I think there was one other, I can't remember who. Anyway, but I think I had 8 at one time, and it was just but I had 3 or 4 championship level fighters, and then the other prospects coming through. So that was more than manageable. But if you got 8 championship level fighters, then you're in you're going to need some extra hands. So
How important is Josh Pritchard to the whole, development? Because, as you say, the more your stable grows, the more help you need. He's been with you for such a long time. He's kind of a great trainer in his own right.
He is a great trainer, and that's what people haven't yet seen. He can work the mitts. He gets things from a technical standpoint. He understands biomechanics. He only had 5 fights when he was like 19, 20, so he never actually was able to show how good he was as a boxer, but he could do 8 rounds at 19 years of age with Carl Frampton, like nip and tuck, like unbelievable talent. He really was, and it's such a shame that what's happened to him. But that's not lost information. I remember when I decided to stop boxing, there was actually a GB coach called Lee Pullen who used to work the corner with my dad. Like, it was like the calm and the crazy. You know what I mean? My dad was always a bit hot-headed and super calm. Yeah. So. But Lee said to me, he said, Shane, that's all information, that's all stored information that you've built over those 8 years of training. Don't let it go to waste. And I didn't, and I've put it all into now, like what I'm doing, and that's a process that you learn. And something like Josh, like, he knows how to cut weight, he knows how to spar lots of rounds, he knows when you're feeling flat what to do, like how to get through sessions. And then he also completely gets the technical side, because he's watched it day in, day out for the last, his first fight with me was second Santa Cruz fight, so January 2017. So he's been here a long time, and he has lots of information. He's got a calm, mature head on his shoulders. Now, by me bringing development kids coming through, because there's loads of kids that would want to come down to the gym, they'll maybe get a little less sessions with me, but they're getting a bit like, they're getting 50-50 time, or even 60% of the time with me, 40% of the time with Josh, and it will allow him to really progress as a coach. Do you know what I mean?
It must have been perfect for you to be his trainer at a time when he realised he couldn't box anymore, because you'd been through it and transitioned into training, and then you encouraged him presumably to do the same thing. If he'd have been with another trainer, that might not have been the path he took, I guess. Definitely,
yeah. He was working in Michael Kors, and I just said, I had Steve Broughton, who's now looking after Joe Joyce. He was my assistant for 4 years or something. I can't remember how many years, for maybe a bit longer. He was my assistant from 2012 to 2017, and he decided to move on, and we decided to part ways. And I just said, look, there's an opportunity, Josh. I know it's a bit of a different role, and it might be a hard pill to swallow, but the opportunity's there. And he just grabbed it with both hands, handed his notice in. 2 weeks later, we flew to Vegas, to do our training camp. And
not a bad place to start, really, is it, if you're going to embark on a new career?
Unfortunately, we started with a loss, but it wasn't a split decision. It was like a majority. Yeah, I can't remember what it was.
I think it was a majority.
Yeah. So, starting at the top level. Actually, we didn't, because we had Taylor on the undercard. He boxed 8 rounds, so we had a win before that. But no, it's been a great journey. And we've, he's seen George completely transition. He had that later on that year. We had George winning the world title. We had, he wasn't actually in the corner for David Hay versus Belly when the Achilles went. Steve was. So I put Steve in contact with David. And Steve was looking after him when I was training Frampton in Vegas, because David didn't want to come to Vegas. And then Steve, that was Steve's last fight with me. But then after that, we've had George wins, we've had Taylor becoming unified world champion, we've had Campbell fighting Lomachenko, like loads of fantastic nights. So in terms of experience, that's, from a coach's standpoint, he's seen it at the top level. He just hasn't been the main voice, but he's been a huge part.
How does success as a trainer, and I'm sure you've answered this loads of times, compare to the feeling of satisfaction when you succeed as a fighter?
I didn't get much satisfaction. Honestly, I genuinely didn't as a fighter. And I was actually chatting about this the other day. Even winning the Irish on the 21s and stuff, and it just didn't necessarily do it for me. Do you know what I mean? Also seniors and stuff. I enjoyed the process, and that's why I think I'm suited to this side of it. Working on getting better day in, day out, and I love the sparring, I love the training, and that's something that I miss, is all the sparring and the physicality of it. but you know, it's definitely, personally, it's more rewarding for me to see somebody develop. You know, like I can take someone that has all the attributes, like Daniel, like all the attributes, but he's just not able to put them together. You know, and then it's like, get him to do this, get him to do that, and then if it's not digesting, figuring out in a way that makes him click. You know what I mean? Okay, then think about the foot. Don't think about anything else, just think about the foot. So then
he starts to tailor it specifically.
Yeah, because certain people, the cues are hip. You know, the cues are head. Do you know what I mean? Throw the head in, throw the hip in, turn the foot. Like, but it's just tweaking it, and then putting it into movement, and then putting it into sparring, and then putting it into the fights, and then seeing them as an individual grow. You know, not just, you know, being like, all fighters have got confidence, but some fighters struggle with confidence more than others. Do you know what I mean? So then just help build them as not just fighters but as people. You know, and then next thing you know, they're a unified world champion, or they're a world champion, or they're a British or Commonwealth. It's a nice process.
Do you ever spar now?
No, I sparred Josh Taylor before the Baranchek fight. His neck went, and I thought, I'm not going to let anybody spar him, because I thought someone's just going to lump him and his neck might go again. So he said, Shane, I need to spar, I really need to spar. So I was like, Josh, I'll spar you. And he was like, oh, right, yeah, fine. But he was going tip light, and then next thing you know, he starts binging a few shots in. I'm thinking, all right, here we go. I didn't have a gum shield, I just put some tape in my mouth. And I was like, that's gripping down on the thing. I was thinking, but no, it was tame. It was only like a little mess. It was like a mess about spar, but it was just getting his timing in. Yeah, so I realised how out of sync I was.
So if you were Tommy McCarthy, you'd be saying you knocked him out.
Yeah.
Just before I let you go, how's the family getting on?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, obviously had a terrible time with my sister passing and stuff, but no, it's, you know, times, if anything's a healer, time's a bit of a healer, and it's good to have Dad in the gym. He's now in slightly better form. It's really good for Daniel to have Dad in the gym, because Daniel's a bit of an old soul. You know, he's got a very good relationship with his dad, who's similar age to my dad. So there's a good little there's a good vibe in the gym, and Dad's really enjoying coming in and out of the gym and stuff. So yeah, everyone's on good form, and yeah, appreciate you asking.
No problem. All right, well, really appreciate your time, and yeah, best of luck with everything coming up.